Welcome to another vintage fishing reel service video. In this episode we're going to be working with what is essentially the Bronson Hawk 903. So this is labeled Bronson Hawk 903. Of course, Bronson was later acquired by True Temper. So in some cases I think they were also Bronson by True Temper or something like that. May have had both the Bronson and True Temper name on them, possibly. And then the Bronson version was introduced in 1962 and was advertised as their cheapest reel, selling at a manufacturer's suggested retail price of $4.50, or at least at that time it was. And they were available in at least three colors. So there was a polished aluminum cover, so the body was always black. There was one that was basically just silver, polished aluminum. There was a black one, and then there was that's anodized aluminum, and then there was a blue one. And then they stopped making them, and then they reappeared in 1968 as a True Temper Hawk 903. And then there's this uncatalogued version, which says 903 True Temper, but it's the only version that doesn't have the model name on it, the Hawk. So it just says 903 True Temper. And I think the True Temper 1968 run only lasted about a year. But both of these are farm fresh, and there's no sense showing the service of both of them. So I think what I'll do is I'll show the service of the 903 True Temper. This is essentially a Hawk. I'll show that on video, and then I'll do this one off video, and then I'll show them both when they've all been cleaned and polished up. These are farm fresh. You can see they're quite dirty. Notice that there was a couple different handle types. The Bronson handle was more of a simple single knob handle, and the True Temper had kind of your classic True Temper knobs, and two of them, and a slightly different design to the handle. So I'm going to set this one aside for now and do that one off camera, and I'll do this one on camera. So let's get started. Okay, I'm going to start by removing the cover, which counterclockwise, let's see, that would be a clockwise turn to remove. So it's counterclockwise to go on, clockwise to remove, just a slight twist. And then removing the drag adjustment knob. And the spinner head. I think this comes apart. I'm just going to carefully pull up on this. Pretty sure this is intended to come apart, because we should have some drag washers in there. So let's see here. Okay, and then that should push out of there. And then we've got a, well, that's kind of surprising. Teflon washer, which is kind of surprising. A Teflon drag washer, which is kind of surprising for 1968. Makes me wonder if someone put that in there. If that might be a replacement. I'm trying not to pull up on it because it could be brittle. But it makes you wonder. I don't usually see Teflon ones in reels that old unless somebody's put a replacement in there. Trying to push this through there. There it comes. And by God, there's another Teflon one in there. It's possible they had those in 68. I just don't know for sure. What's interesting is you've got a fiber washer in behind that Teflon washer. So you had this apparatus, a fiber washer, and then a Teflon washer, then your spinner head, then another Teflon washer, and then this keyed washer, and then your drag adjustment. I'll have to check the schematic, make sure that's all correct, but that's how I found it. Okay, taking off the handle now. Somebody's been into this, I think, relatively recently, because there's a lot of what appears to be relatively fresh oil in there. We'll see how well they did, if they've done anything other than just exterior maintenance. And so now we're ready to push out this pin to access all the gears and so on. You have to take off this gigantic button. So we're going to push out this pin and remove the button. So somebody has done some oiling and so on. It doesn't look like it got cleaned or anything. We'll see what the grease looks like. Should be able to simply pull out the main gear shaft. It does seem nice and oily in there. But there's still a lot of gunk in the teeth of the pinion gear. But it's very oily, so I think it's probably been serviced at some point. It's not totally farm fresh. So then we have the main gear and shaft. This looks like the body is pretty much clean of all parts, so that can go in the parts tray. This one, you've got a spring, and then you have your anti-reverse mechanism here. And it looks like everything else is one piece. The cogs on the anti-reverse. Wow. Looks like the I don't know if you can see that, but it looks like some significant scars and wear on those anti-reverse cogs. That's kind of unusual. Never really seen that before. But those pieces can now go into the parts tray as well. So that's about as simple as it gets. Ready to take those parts to the sink and thoroughly scrub them, getting some penetrating oil down in the journals where the various shafts go, the axillary shaft, the main gear shaft, etc., etc. Scrub those with a toothbrush, and I'll be back just like that. And look how beautiful that cover cleaned up. I mean, there's like one scratch right there, maybe a couple other really minor ones, but man, that thing is, somebody either took really good care of that or it's not really been used much at all. And the button, remember how marred up and dirty that was? Look how beautifully that cleaned up. So this will be looking like new when we're done. Okay, let's start off by putting the main gear shaft and main gear back in. And want to make sure we get that anti-reverse mechanism on the right way. But it does have this little punch out, so it's concave on that side, convex on that side, and I imagine that's some kind of an indicator as to which face goes in and which face goes out. Okay, so it turns out that the little punch right there, the convex side goes down and the concave side faces up on that, or out towards the handle on the anti-reverse. And when you install it, I think this little projection here has to go down towards the foot. Let's put it together and see if that works. So I think what's happening is that this point here does not fit. It is not meant, and I don't know if you can see that, to go in this corner here. It's not meant to go in that corner here. I think it's meant to hit up against this down here. So I think that little projection fits to where it rests, not in the corner, but here. It's so black it's hard to see, but hopefully you can see it kind of fits in, I think, like that. So the convex side down, spring on, kind of have this cocked back. Stick the assembly in there. And get it pushed all the way back. And then I'm going to go ahead and install the handle so we can test its operation. Yeah. Doesn't always catch. It's doing a little better, but sometimes it misses. But see, right now it's missing. But probably because it needs to have that pinion gear kind of pushing against it. But it's working now. All right. Well, one thing I need to do after all that is make sure that that main gear shaft is oiled. So I'll pull this back off. All right, now we're ready to take and inspect the. There's definitely some wear on the gears, so I'm going to conclude that this was used maybe regularly and just somebody took really good care of it. You can see, I think, some wear on those gears, on this side of the gear. So I'm going to get a little bit of oil up underneath of that pinion gear and work that in. I'm going to probably go ahead and grease the pinion gear now and oil the shaft and drop that back down in. Now I'm going to go ahead and oil the main gear, or sorry, grease the main gear. Okay, and I think at that point we're ready to put the thumb button back on. That pin looks pretty much symmetrical, so I don't think it really matters which end you put in first or on which side. Okay. Now I think this later version, of course this is a 1968, I think this later version is a little bit different here. This assembly I think is a little bit different than the original 1962 series Bronson. And so when I service that other regular Bronson, that older one, I may turn the camera back on and show you, because I think this apparatus is different on the older version. I don't see anything like this cupped piece in that schematic for the original version. So we had the this kind of looks like it's felt, so maybe that's for absorbing lubricant. And then you've got a Teflon, and then that sneaks up back into here, and then I'm going to spread that back out a bit because we had to pinch that to get it out of there. And then probably should have put my washer or my drag washer on before I did that, but it's okay, it's on there now. And then your keyed washer over that. Okay, it's down in there now. So now we should be ready to put this back on. Okay, and then put our drag adjuster knob back on. Now I'll tighten that way down And then try the drag and then loosen it up. So the drag's working. A little bit of wobble in that spinner head, but it's just a really cheaply made reel. I'm not saying it's a bad reel, but it's, you know, it's pretty cheaply made, so I don't know if that wobble is entirely unexpected or whether it'll affect the function of the thing. But the drag is working, and look at that. It's really working nicely now. So now all you have to do is put the cover on, and that True Temper 903 is back in business. So I'll get the other one done mostly off camera. I may turn the camera back on to show any differences in that drag setup, and then we'll look at both of them when they're all done. Okay, just as I suspected, on this older Bronson, you know, pre-True Temper, the drag setup and the thumb button setup's a little bit different in that this piece and this piece are not kind of pressed in like that last one. They're separate, and they don't have that two-prong thing that comes up through there like the last one did. So that one's keyed. It looks like. Let's see here. Yeah, it's this thing has a little tab in it that goes up against the flat side of that axle shaft, and then this is also got a flat side, so that goes on like that. Now the drag washers on this one are a little bit more traditional fiber washers, so that one goes on top of there. Then you've got your spinner head, then you've got another fiber drag washer, and then finally this keyed washer where the scored side faces out, because that's where this thing and the little ears on this kind of catch on those to keep your drag from changing its position once it's set. So that the pre-True Temper Bronson Hawk 903, the one, you know, where they started making them in '62 and went for a couple of years, that one has a slightly different drag setup than the 1968 True Temper version. And I assume both the unbranded, or, you know, the one that has, it's not unbranded, but the one that both has the model, like the Hawk, and the one that does not have the model Hawk on it, as this one does not, by True Temper. I assume the drag setups on those are both the same, but different than the original Hawks. So there you have it. And by the way, I'll do it off camera, but I forgot to oil the handle knobs. I'll do that off camera. But there you have it. An early and a late version of the Bronson / True Temper Hawk 903 spin casting reel, made in Michigan, and of course in the by God US of A. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.